Every day, millions of people go online to search for local businesses. Does your small business show up? When you create a website on WordPress.com, you make it easier for your customers to find you, to connect with you, to hear how you can help them. Your business needs an online home. It needs a WordPress.com website. You don't need experience setting up websites. WordPress guides you through the process from start to finish. They take care of the technical stuff, so it's easy to get your site up and running. Their customer support team is made up of WordPress experts eager to help you get the most from your site. They're available to help 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and weekends. Plans start at just $4 a month, and all WordPress plans include a custom domain name for the life of the plan. Come see why 28% of all websites run on WordPress. Get started today with 15% off any new plan purchase. Go to WordPress.com/Golic to create your website and find the plan that's right for you. That's WordPress.com/Golic for 15% off your brand new website. WordPress.com/Golic.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Woohoo! And welcome in to another edition of Golic and Wingo. Glad you are here with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We, as always, are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pensacola Performance Line. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr. We all right? Everybody good?
All good, man. Midweek, we're all bracing for the big storm here in the Northeast coming up tomorrow.
Seems to be a vacillating forecast on how much
does.
snow we're getting.
And you know what I can't stand here, and I'm sure others as well. I can't stand the weather people's giddiness.
Oh, yeah.
At just how bad the weather's going to be and how giddy they are.
Pants all around their ankles right now. They're really
awful.
just loving life.
It's
sick and twisted because we're going to be sitting there because the immediate place that we all go to when we see this is shoveling, right?
Yeah.
Like you just think, all right, how much am I going to have to shovel? Those weather people aren't thinking about that. They're not thinking about the everyman. No. They're concerned with themselves, and it's despicable.
But this is like the playoffs for them.
It is.
You
it's
get
exactly
a big
right.
storm, that's what it is.
Got to go in early today.
We get geeked up for the NFL postseason and the college football playoff. It's sort of the same thing. By the way, just to show you how cold it's been in the Northeast and in other places, by the way, across the country.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I was driving into work today, and I realized it was 6 degrees warmer this morning than it was yesterday, and it was 1.
Isn't that amazing?
It was 1 this morning.
At least
and it was 6 degrees warmer than it was
Here's
yesterday.
the thing, though. The weather people get geeked up about bad weather.
Yes.
We get geeked up about good stuff.
Oh, I don't know. We like cold weather playoff games in the NFL. We do like that.
You guys like that.
But
I've been over here in Team Good Weather on everything.
Yeah.
I'm 72 and sunny till I die.
But I mean, it's playoffs we're talking about. It's good basketball we're talking
Fair.
about. It's
Totally
streaks
fair.
in the NHL.
Throwing
That's what
your
we're talking
highlighter.
about. Throwing my highlighter. We're talking about good things in sports, not how much snow we all have to shovel in a day and a half.
Yeah, it's
I
going to be
hate those
interesting.
people. I hate you all.
Well,
not in a bad way.
Live
It's
local and late breaking. We'll get the Doppler 5 Extra Super Sonar
There you
Super
go.
3D radar weather for you and get that updated
gosh.
for you. So that's what really up and down. They're talking about this maybe as far down as Florida.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an ugly one. Supposed to be an ugly
I
one.
just
be a
needed
big
to
one?
clear out of Atlanta because I'm hoping for like the incremental bump up to your point. 6 degrees warmer this morning.
Right.
If it can be in the 30s in Atlanta this
Winter.
weekend when we're down there, I'm
Speedo.
down there. It's oh yeah,
We win.
You pop the top.
Yeah.
We're
Easy.
walking off the plane in shorts and a T-shirt.
Flip-flops,
Going,
baby.
are you
Let's
kidding me?
go.
Sun rays hit me. Yeah.
Unlike Keenan Allen last Sunday, who was playing in L.A. in a hoodie.
Yeah, that was something.
that was quite interesting. We have a lot to get
We
to
do.
today. We got Isaiah Thomas's debut for the Cleveland Cavs.
Yes, we
we'll
do.
get to that. Nick Saban made some more interesting comments about some things that he's not happy with the college football playoff. The numbers came out for the semifinals.
Yes, they did.
We'll get to that. We have some more surprising NFL coaching news. Marvin Lewis is sticking around. We'll get into all of that. And on the guest today, we have Jon Gruden. will join us talking about the wild card game, as well as maybe some team called the Oakland Raiders.
Maybe to see what's going on in that situation.
We may talk about that. Kyle Williams will join us of the Buffalo Bills.
Hell yeah.
In
Big
the playoffs
scoring
for the first time, the big man touchdown that helped salt away that victory. Kirk Herbstreit will join us as well to talk about the College Football National Championship. And Brian Windhorst will be with us as well, our ESPN NBA insider, as we get set to talk about what it means for the Cavaliers now that Isaiah is back and how they will manage his minutes going forward after dealing with the hip issue that has kept him out of, or did keep him out of the first 36 games. So what we're saying is it's a happy hump day. Lots to get to. Let's get started with...
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
All right, we start off the top in college basketball. 10th-ranked Kansas lost its third home game of the season last night, falling 85-73 to 18th-ranked Texas Tech. Jayhawks had just lost 3 of 83 home games total over the previous 5 seasons.
That's a tough call. Now, one of the losses came at the Sprint Center in Kansas City. It's considered a home game. It's kind of like when UConn plays on campus or at the Hartford.
Or when the Packers used to play in Milwaukee as opposed to Lambeau.
Exactly. So they lost 2 at their actual home, but 3 home games overall. As you mentioned, 80-3 at home in the last previous 5 seasons, and all 3 coming this year. That's a tough call when you dominate that much at home, the expectation at home, and this was an 85-73 game against a ranked opponent in Texas Tech, but still, when you have that much dominance at home and to drop all 3 already.
Well, when the standard is winning the Big 12 every year, and that it is eerily reminiscent of, I remember when we played Oklahoma in football back when Bob Stoops' home record there, I think they had lost 4 or 5 games when we went down there and beat them in 12 up until that point. So you understand as a team coming in how much that means. That's one of those we rarely appreciate in the moment as athletes, historical significance. That was one I remember in the time going, this is special. So for Texas Tech on the other side to come in there and steal a win regardless of where this program is huge.
Texas Tech, by the way, 2-0 in the conference right now. All right. There you go.
Hey now.
How about this? Coming into this year, Bill Self was 220-10 in Allen Fieldhouse in his 14 seasons in Lawrence. He's now 226-12. And again, that third home loss, as you said, was in the Sprint Center in Kansas City. We continue.
Off the top.
People are leaving the desert. First Bruce Arians and now Carson Palmer. The quarterback announced his retirement after 14 seasons. He played for the Cardinals, Bengals, and Raiders over the course of his year, said you just know about when it was time to walk away from the game.
One of 4 quarterbacks in NFL history to throw at least 100 touchdown passes for 2 different NFL teams, Cardinals and Bengals. The others, Peyton Manning, Colts and Broncos, Fran Tarkington, Giants and Vikings, and Kurt Warner, Rams and Cardinals. So, he going over had the injury bug, obviously, the last couple of years. An interesting way where when he left Cincinnati, didn't want to play there anymore. Was talking about, well, I don't have to play. I got $50 million in the bank. By the way, the biggest number for him is I think he made $173 million or something like that in his career.
Decent. Good for him.
Good number for you. Good job. And ending out in the desert is great as well, where I'm going to end up making a lot less money than he's made out in the desert. But
you're like making $50 million a year, so it doesn't matter.
Who?
You. That's what I was told.
Let me hold some.
Yeah.
It's all coming to you.
All I got to say is that Sydney's up and listening right now. She'll be really, really happy.
Yeah, please do not sell her that lie, because that makes you officially worth more to her dead than alive.
Really does. Most passing touchdowns by our quarterback never to start a Super Bowl. Warren Moon third at that 291, Carson Palmer second at 294, and Phillip Rivers first at 342 for that. But obviously a good career for Carson Palmer.
Is that the ultimate list as a quarterback you don't want to be on? I mean, if you think about it, that's saying really good things about your career, but I would imagine every quarterback is like, don't be on that list.
Yeah.
That's like leading the minor leagues in home runs. That's like being Crash Davis.
It's like being Marvin Lewis.
We'll get to that actually. Nicely done.
Oh wow!
He
went there.
We'll sort of bring that up a little bit. We'll talk about it more. But Marvin Lewis, a lot of people thought that he was going to be done. I mean, it had been reported that he was going to walk away and look for something else, and lo and behold, he gets a 2-year contract extension.
That's going to be. We'll get into that one.
We will get into that one as well. But good thing for Carson is that. Well, I think Junior on your show. What was it that he had the best winning percentage of any Heisman Trophy winning quarterback?
Yeah, Hembo, I need you to look that up because I think technically Cam Newton might have more wins already or maybe close in that category as a former Heisman winner.
He has the most wins, not the best record.
The most wins of a former Heisman
wins.
Which is impressive and shows you kind of the burden of that award, how much it really is about the college career and not projecting forward. But for him, marry that up with a lot of pro success.
And by the way, the disembodied voice of Hembo. Good to have you on the show.
Good to have you, Hembo.
Welcome back. brother.
Always good to have Hembo on the show.
No baseball talk.
No. Give me the White Sox lineup 1 through 9 and their war against all replacements. Thank you.
Off the top.
Meanwhile,
the war against replacements.
It is a war against replacements. We're against that stat. We are against that stat.
Oh, boy.
Meanwhile, with Tuesday's win against the Knicks, Spurs head coach Greg Popovich moved into sole possession of 5th on the all-time NBA coaching wins list, breaking a tie with George Karl.
Yeah, George Karl. Next up is Pat Riley. So Popovich sitting there at 5th. Pat Riley, he's 34 away from Riley. 44 games left in the regular season for them. So if he goes 34-10, 35-10, he moves into 4th. Obviously, he's going to keep coaching. He's 34 away from Riley at 4th. He's 45 away from Jerry Sloan at 3rd. So that's in the very near future. And then it gets a little more distant. Second is Lenny Wilkins. He's 156 away from Wilkins, and Don Nelson leads the way. He's 159 away from Don Nelson. So he'll be getting up to 3rd by next year at some point. But this guy has been ridiculous in what he has done since coming out of the management group there and onto the floor and coaching.
It really is amazing. Obviously, the longevity and the amount of success. They made the playoffs in all 20 years, 50 wins in all but one season, and that's because that season was shortened to only 50 games.
And they won 37 of those 50 games.
And didn't they win the championship that year?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. So it's still managing to do it on the top end, and really was biding all his time to get to this current time socially, because he has been in the forefront of NBA coaches popping off in press conferences about the current state of affairs in the United States.
Yes, he is.
It seems like he was tailor-made. He was one of those guys that was born too early and thankfully made it and got to sustain the success into the time he deserves now.
He's getting it all in now, isn't he? Yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah. The interesting thing there is Popovich is an unbelievable coach. There's no doubt about that. And with the things he's done in a small market city, San Antonio is not one of the bigger cities in the NBA, where he has a very different thought mentality as opposed to a lot of coaches. Are we in the golden era of coaches right now? When you have Bill Belichick, who I think most people would agree is maybe the best coach ever in any sport of all time.
He's getting him and Nick Saban.
That's my point.
Yeah.
You have Nick Saban, you have Greg Popovich, and you have Bill Belichick right now. And I know we're all about the players, and we should be, but when you look at these guys and what they've accomplished in their careers, I mean, obviously you have John Wooden with what he did at UCLA, and we understand what Red Auerbach did in a different time. It was a different time where there weren't as many teams that could be invited into a championship event, whether it's the NCAA or the NBA playoffs, and compete. So those numbers will always stand alone. They will always stand alone. But are we looking at maybe across sports with the depth and competitive balance that we have in all of these sports? Are we looking at maybe the golden age of head coaches in these sports right now?
Well, I think especially when you take into account free agency, you're just dealing with a lot of different circumstances in all this. And you remember the guys coming up too now. I mean, when it's all said and done, resume-wise, what are we going to talk about Steve Kerr as? A guy who has a chance to amass as much success as anyone else and deserves credit for setting a tone there and creating an environment for all the success we've seen in Golden State.
And certainly what comes along with that is, well, look at the players you have. Well, you know, I always remember hearing that about Phil Jackson. Well, they had Michael Jordan. Well, any coach who won a number of championships had great players. Okay? What I think is coming to an end is the longevity that we're seeing out of these coaches. Is guys both in college and pro staying. I mean, as we come off of Snyder going for a 27th year.
78 years old. Bill Snyder going to be the head coach of Kansas State.
Absolutely a fantastic story there. But they're way more the exception than the rule for college and pro in all sports that want to change coaches over and over and over again. There's just no patience unless you're in Cincinnati.
Yeah, when Marvin Lewis. But it is interesting. Like you mentioned Phil Jackson, and obviously his rings are ridiculous, and people say, well, he had Michael Jordan. Well, Doug Collins had Michael Jordan. You know, he didn't win anything. And now, to be fair, Michael Jordan didn't win anything until Scottie Pippen showed up.
Exactly.
So you can't just say you got one great player.
You can always connect those things. But to your point,
I mean, it is interesting to see these three guys in different sports completely dominating in an era where you're not supposed to be able to dominate.
To your point, I think what's ending over, and I don't know when it has kind of ended, is the longevity. You just don't see coaches get that much leash anymore.
No. It's continuity, and it's what happens when you flood any system with the amount of money that's at stake in all of this for a lot of the people making the decisions.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting. Pop is just a guy that has just been a consistent winner in an era where he didn't have, I mean, he had Tim Duncan, I get that, but he didn't have a LeBron. He didn't have a Michael Jordan. He had some really, really good players that he's built around, and and look, if Kawhi Leonard doesn't get hurt last year in the first game of the Western Conference Finals, they were shellacking the Warriors in Game 1.
The one thing I like about Popovich as well, that's a sport in the NBA where, let's be honest, the players run the show.
Correct.
The players want you out, you're out, except for a few, and Popovich is one of them.
That's exactly right. And to that point, again, with the lack of stability and the lack of longevity and the players having so much power in that sport, it speaks volumes to what he's been able to do. So congratulations to Pop, and we'll see what happens going forward.
Off the top.
Staying in the NBA, hey, the Cavs finally have the team they wanted to have at the beginning of the year. Isaiah Thomas, after missing the first 36 game of the year, made his Cleveland debut, scored 17 points in 19 minutes in the Cavs' win over Portland.
Yeah, they were good with Thomas on the floor when LeBron was off the floor, and vice versa. They outscored the Blazers 31-13 with Isaiah Thomas on and LeBron off. Remember, Isaiah came off the bench in this one. Eventually, he's going to be the starting point guard. He put up better numbers at the point guard position than what has gone on all year for the Cavaliers at the point guard position. But my thought has always been, take your time. He's sitting out tonight, and a lot of people are looking into that because it's against the Celtics, a game against the Celtics, but he's sitting out. I get it. Any athlete who's gone through any injury, especially as major as he's had coming back, it wasn't the game. They limited his minutes, and he did well with the 17 points in 19 minutes. But as you know, Mike, it's today. How does he feel today? Waking up after all that time off, playing an actual game, how does he come back after that injury and trying to get himself into basketball shape?
Yeah, the people are going to look at it because it's the Celtics and feel some type of way about it, but this is a timeline that they have been working, the training staff. They gave the game ball to the head trainer there last night for all the work that he's done helping Isaiah get back to this point. So they've had this plan in place. They understand what they want to do with this. And so the Celtics are a nameless gray face that happen to be on the second night of the back-to-back.
Yeah. By the way, again, not only is he not playing, they're not going to do the tribute video that so many NBA teams do when a player returns.
Right.
And that was, I think they talked to Isaiah about that.
They did, because he's not going to play, and he said it was more, he was getting crushed a little bit for that, but he said it's about my family as well, for them to enjoy. We all know the horrific situation in the playoffs last year with his sister passing away. So they're going to wait till he actually going to play in a game, and I completely understand why he's not playing in this game.
Yeah, and again, Isaiah Thomas, Brian Windhorst will join us later on in the show to talk about it. So Isaiah Thomas gave the Cavs the confidence to win last night because he had 17 points. I think the average for the point guard for the Cavs had been like 8.9.
It'd been not good, and he was good.
Yes, it was a lot to a little.
There you
analysis.
go.
And now it's much better because he's on the a lot, and the little had been the previous point guard play. So he gave him the confidence to win last night, just like the folks over at Quicken Loans. Brought to you by National Mortgage Lender Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. And again, we'll get into a little bit later on Golic and Wingo the situation with Isaiah Thomas and how they're going to sort of work him in and what the long-term team will look like. Because remember, at the start of the season, it was a little rough start for the Cavs after the win over the Celtics. Then they completely righted the ship, and now they're going to go through this process again with Isaiah and see how quickly they can get that thing going in the right direction, as they did last night against Portland. But we brought up Marvin Lewis because it had been widely speculated, again, by people here, including our own Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen, that once the season was over, I think 2 or 3 weeks with 2 or 3 weeks to go in the regular season, that Marvin Lewis was probably going to walk away from the Cincinnati Bengals after a 15-year run, and lo and behold, instead, Coach Marvin Lewis got a 2-year contract extension on Tuesday, trying once again now to get that one playoff win that he has not had in 15 seasons. Now, they have been to the playoffs 7 times, but 0-7 in the playoffs. However, people need to understand, when Marvin Lewis got to Cincinnati, people forget, because we're in a short-term memory society now, the Bengals were the Browns.
They were the Browns.
They were the current Browns.
Yep.
That's how bad they were. They were called the Bungles. They couldn't get out of their own way. They couldn't draft well. Nothing was working right. And he made them a respectable franchise that has been to the playoffs in 7 of 15 seasons, almost 50% of the time. But the one thing looming over him was that donut in the win column in the postseason. And our Stephen A. Smith, who, by the way, can now be heard nationally 1 to 3 on ESPN Radio, went on SportsCenter last night, and let's say he was having none of it.
As far as I'm concerned, Mike Brown and Cincinnati Bengals ownership has essentially given the city of Cincinnati the proverbial finger, told them to go kick rocks. We don't care what you think or how we feel because we're getting paid. Why? This is the third team, lowest attendance in the league. Only the Chargers in LA at the StubHub Center and the winless Cleveland Browns have worse attendance than the Cincinnati Bengals. So the fan base is abandoning you. Your winning has abandoned. Your level of productivity has abandoned. And you still keep a job? It's disgraceful. There is no excuse for it. As far as I'm concerned, it's an abomination of the highest order when it comes to coaching, because what you're saying is you don't care about winning.
Well, not sure I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
I want to be clear about that, but there are some points.
Yes, there are.
that are valid in what Stephen A was saying. And by the way, on the record thing, Marvin Lewis, often talked about, hey, you haven't won the playoff game, 0-7. Bengals only been favored in 2 of those games, 2013 against the Chargers, 2009 against the Jets. Kind of crazy things that happened. Of course, obviously, they had that wild weekend game against the Steelers that
right.
sort of devolved into a street fight.
Right, yeah, exactly.
With a couple of years ago. So we'll get into all of that.
Yeah. Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Rolling through a Wednesday morning. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, which we love. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, which we also love. Lots to get to. Again, Jon Gruden will be coming up later. Kyle Williams of the Buffalo Bills will join us. Kirk Herbstreit will stop by, as will Brian Windhorst, and we'll get into much more about the Cavs and how they'll work in Isaiah Thomas going forward with Brian, with our ESPN NBA insider. But just before the break and before we played SportsCenter, guys, we were talking about the Marvin Lewis situation in Cincinnati. And again, it was widely reported, especially by people here, that thought Marvin Lewis was going to step away and maybe look at other options after the season ended. And, of course, the season ended with the Cincinnati Bengals pulling off an upset win over the Baltimore Ravens that got the Buffalo Bills into the playoffs, which set a whole different chain of events into effect, which we'll get into as well, what the Buffalo fans have been doing for Andy Dalton's foundation. It is phenomenal. You can't talk about that enough. But the idea that Marvin Lewis is back after 15 seasons where he went 0-7 in the postseason means what to you, Mike?
Well, I was a little surprised. I'm not going to lie. I mean, obviously, with all our reports, we thought it was going to be the end of the relationship there. Maybe by Marvin's decision, but right. you never know if it's behind the scenes, if it's this, hey, do you want to step down because we may fire you, so maybe if you step down, it looks better that way. So we don't know what was going on there, but now we do. And he has the extension. And listen, I'm going to do what we always do here. We talk really nice about someone and then use the word but, right? Yeah. I mean, because we all love Marvin Lewis. He's been on the show a ton of times. He's so well respected around the league for what he's done. I don't think there's any question. And you brought up, and there are a lot of people that don't remember how bad Cincinnati was before he got there.
They were a joke before he got there.
Horrible. But he has gone 15 seasons there. He has gone to the playoffs 7 times, and he is 0-7. Now, on one side, I preach about longevity, i.e. see the Pittsburgh Steelers and their coaching staff, in giving you a chance to work through the highs and the lows. But here, there haven't been many highs. It's been pretty much all lows with not getting a victory in the playoffs. So I'm a little surprised at this, Mike. I'm not going to lie. I thought, and is the reason that they thought, okay, well, if we do this, there's so many other openings right now. There's so many other candidates. Do we think we can get somebody better, or do we just stay with what we have? And a lot of people, if you're in Cincinnati, I think you're feeling, well, you're deciding to stay with basically, from a record standpoint, mediocrity to lower, right? Either not making the playoffs or making the playoffs and losing in the first round. So why not try something, shake it up a little bit? It's been a long time. You can't say there hasn't been the chance to do something there. So I'm a little surprised at, okay, it's been a long, long time here. We're going to need to shake it up. Even if we don't have one particular person in mind, we need to go a different direction here.
And in an offseason where there are so many assistant coaches that are getting interviewed now and candidates that are out there. What are you telling your team? In addition that you're okay with mediocrity, is that we're okay with that because either we don't believe we're enough of a destination, we don't offer enough to one of these coaches to sway them from what might be quote unquote a better job, or we're not willing to try to do that.
Well, the interesting thing there is Paul Guenther, the defensive coordinator who had long been with the Bengals and was rumored to be a guy that may be replacing Marvin Lewis, is now going off to somewhere else. He's looking for another job because I think there was a thought in his mind, at least, that he would be the successor to Marvin Lewis, and that's not going to happen for at least 2 more years.
Right.
Well, and I think you could say that for a fair amount of the coordinators that have probably come through there just because of Marvin Lewis's longevity and the lack of top-end success. Like, you look at this, and it's just someone who's just sort of content to be there as a franchise. This is less about Marvin Lewis. He is what he is. You can only control as an organization how you react to that. And you mentioned all those other places, the coaches have championships to back it up. We've seen that there is enough of a high to say, all right, because in any good process, you don't want to be too result-driven to the point where you say, all right, if we enjoy and we believe in the foundation and the way that we build our team and the tone this coach sets, then I'm fine with working through some of the pain and all this. But when you've never seen the process that he's laid forth, net results that are worthy of keeping him around, this just seems like you're comfortable spinning your tires.
And along with building the team, let's be honest, there have been a lot of people have questioned them building the team, and that's just not Marvin Lewis, that's Mike Brown as well. They're taking some chances on some guys that other teams weren't going to try, right? That had some issues, and they have basically come out and said, we believe in giving second chances. Some people applaud them for it, and some people say, why are you taking some of these guys? Vontez Burfict, a guy who would have been a first rounder, but had all kinds of problems. Now, he has been great at times on the field, but we know the issues that he has to staying on the field. Joe Mixon was the latest one with them. Pac-Man Jones, with issues as well, and on that they've done with that as well. So some people applaud them for it, and some people say, why are you going down that road? But at the end of it all, this is professional sports, man. This is winning. And in 15 years, you haven't done it in the playoffs. I'm really surprised at this one. I can understand Cincinnati fans. I can't imagine there's a high percentage that are happy about this. I imagine there's a very low percentage. But what you said, Trey, and I agree with, let's kind of really try and dive into this and say, okay, was this, if you really look at it, did they not have someone else in mind? Is this the right thing to do for another couple of years? I have a hard time even digging down into it saying, this is the right thing to do. I'm very surprised at this.
It is. Yeah, I agree. Look, I don't think there's another coach in another city that would go 15, that could last 15 seasons without winning a playoff
no way.
game. That's just not going to happen. However, nothing happens in a vacuum. And again, you go back to what they were before he got there, and they were terrible. You mentioned this is one of my favorite stats of all time. You mentioned the longevity with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Just so people understand, since Chuck Noll was hired in 1969, there have been 3 Steelers head coaches. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin. Over that same time frame, we've had 4 popes.
Yep.
Okay, that tells you quite a bit. Okay, about the stability.
And I
of
love
what we're
that.
talking about. It's amazing.
I love that. But the difference is those guys have won. Those guys have had
all 3
bad
of those
times.
Guys went to Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowls, and won at least one.
Exactly.
So there's a big difference here.
Right.
Look,
Pope never won a Super Bowl.
Well. No. Yeah, but he won some other things.
Did.
So the hard thing with Marvin is that, you do believe that he instituted a culture change, but it still hasn't resulted in the wins that we now measure success by in the NFL. And that's the thing that's been missing from his resume. So it does leave you like, I get it, but I still think that we should be better. I mean, do we believe now, with that Marvin Lewis is back, they're going to be able to compete with the Pittsburgh Steelers, assuming Ben Roethlisberger is back in 2018, and they'll compete with the Baltimore Ravens, who gacked one away at home to the Bengals that allowed the Buffalo Bills to walk into the playoffs. Do we believe, as this team is currently constructed, with Marvin Lewis coming back for another year, that they'll be in the hunt for the AFC North?
No, I believe the Baltimore Raven fans and the Pittsburgh Steelers fans are saying, cool, good. We know what we have in the Cincinnati Bengals now. We know we should be better than them.
Hell, even the Cleveland Browns are probably looking at them like, you're not even trying. Like, at worst, at least we're doing things. We're bad, but we know it, and we're going to whatever lengths we need to. It may not always work, but hell, if I'm a Cleveland fan, I can look and say, we may not always know what we're doing, but at least we look like we're trying.
Yeah. This one, I'll use the word befuddled.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Again, this could be the most classic love the guy, respect the guy, but I just don't know why they're not trying to shake things up there in Cincinnati.
Well, especially when you look, Cleveland has tried this a million times and it hasn't worked.
Right.
They have the first and the fourth pick in the
yes,
draft.
they do.
And, it's all set up for them. Whoever gets that thing turned around, it's an interesting situation in Cleveland because I think they picked up a couple of decent players. Myles Garrett looked like when he was on the field was very healthy and looked like he could play. If Josh Gordon is back, now you get maybe a quarterback and maybe you get Saquon Barkley.
Listen, if you become a great player over the next few years in Cleveland, I mean a great one, and a coach that takes his team to the playoff, it's the city where the player and or coach has the best chance to get a statue made of them.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. For as bad as they have been, you can be statue worthy at a pretty low level there.
The city where the best chance to get a reaction like we just got in Buffalo probably resides. Because as much as they love the Cavs and how much that team has been successful, growing up around there, it would mean just as much, if not a little bit more, for it to be the Browns.
It's been muted a bit because of the Cavs and because the Indians are been right there as well.
The Windians.
Man, but boy, oh boy, the Browns, you just kind of, your shoulders sag, you just exhale, and you just wonder when.
Let's put it this way. You win a game next year, it's already a success.
There you go.
You win a game next year, it's already a success.
Back again.
I got to tell you one of my favorite Marvin Lewis stories of all time, and it came when he was actually the last job I think he had before he took the job with the Cincinnati Bengals. He was the defensive coordinator when Steve Spurrier was the head coach of the Washington Redskins. Right. And Steve obviously had just made the jump from all his success at the University of Florida before he went to South Carolina. So they're out there, I believe it's an OTA or a mini camp, and Steve, as the head coach, says, I'm going to take the offensive players and go work out on this field. Marvin, why don't you take the defensive players and go work out on this field? And Marvin sort of looks at Steve and says, Coach, we only have 53 players. We practice together.
Yeah.
a little different than the college football scenario. We have 4,628 players.
Where are the walk-ons?
Yeah, exactly. There are no preferreds here.
Yeah.
Okay? We don't have those guys.
Steve had an interesting time.
So they had to work together. Yeah. We practiced together. One of my favorite stories of all time. Rolling on Golic and Wingo. Glad you're with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. And a reminder that we will be on the road live this Monday from Hotlanta for the College Football Playoff National Championship, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $620.
And really quickly, on the road means on the road with our bus.
We got a big giant bus.
We got a bus. We got it out on Twitter yesterday. We did some things on the bus, but people saw the bus. It's very cool, and it is on its way to Atlanta as we speak.
And I'd like to say, because our giant faces are on the bus, we understand if you want to throw rotten vegetables.
Please don't do that, though, because the bus driver is the one that has to clean it.
The bus driver's a cool dude.
Yeah.
He'll have to worry about that.
He's a really nice guy.
But giant shots of our heads, HD is not our friend.
Not our friend at all.
I just want, going back to what Junior was talking about in our advanced decrepit state.
Yeah.
HD is not our friend on that bus.
Does not look good.
It does not look good.
Yeah. So I'm 28 and HD is not my friend. So
that's a separate issue I didn't want to get into. I'm glad you brought it up. I
hope someone tags me with hair on that bus.
It's a cool bus that we're very excited to be on the road with, have everybody see it and kind of hang out with us.
And everywhere we go on the road, that bus will be there. So we're looking forward to that. First stop will be Atlanta. And, of course, the two teams in the national championship game, it's an SEC title game in the city where they had the SEC championship game. Mm-hmm. It'll be Alabama taking on Georgia. And Nick Saban is already disgruntled. By the way, I'm stealing a line from Michael Scott in The Office. Has anybody ever been gruntled?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't understand how the word disgruntled.
Disgruntled.
You have to be gruntled to put a dis in front of it, like associated, disassociated, appointed, disappointed. I don't understand, but anyway, Nick Saban is disgruntled. He's talking about the difficulty of coming off a bowl game late at night with only 7 days to prepare. Quote, someone has to think about the players, Saban said, and not what's convenient for the media or TV.
Well,
your thoughts?
They spent the night in New Orleans because they got out of there so late after the game that they spent the night and then traveled. They have a couple of injuries they're dealing with. I heard you this morning on yours, so I'll let you go, Mike, on this one. I thought I'm just going to agree with everything you said about Saban's intention and what he really means.
Yeah, Saban wants to strive to be the most prepared version of himself possible. And so while I appreciate the notion that this is about the kids, this is about Nick wanting to be able to control everything. Now, that being said, if we're looking for someone to help us put a fine-tooth comb through the college football playoff process, no one understands it better than him. He's been in it every year, and in going back to the BCS, he used that time period too. So he'd kind of be the guy I would ask for suggestions.
That I would agree with, but saying it's, I mean, remember when he was talking about it, and we say it about him because he was really the only one, or one of the, and he's the monster name out there. When the fast pace of the game, he was saying we got to do something about that. There's too many plays. It's going to lead to injury. And we were like, come on. And they're they run up tempo now as well. So let's ease up on this is for the players. I'm sure there's some thought process of the players, and basically it's get healthy because they had a couple of guys that were nicked up in this game. So I don't want to sit here, and we don't want to sit here and say he has no thought for the players at all. I don't want to say that. But a lot of it is about the proper preparation for this game.
Well, look, it's also about some injuries that he's had. They had some more injuries to the linebacking core, which has taken a lot of hits over the season at Alabama. But let's be fair, nothing happens in a vacuum. It was just a year ago where I believe Nick Saban said, hey, winning your conference championship should matter in getting into the playoffs.
Right.
And this year, because he didn't, they lobbied quite hardly that, hey, you don't need your conference championship to make it into the playoffs.
What fits at the time, huh?
That's exactly right. And it proved out he was right. They went out there and no one can say that Alabama wasn't one of the top 4 teams that deserved to be in.
I agree.
Look what they did to Clemson. They absolutely choked that team down. And a lot of people are saying, well, it's the SEC championship. It's going to be about the ratings, and the ratings are going to be bad. I'm not so sure about that. The numbers came out for the semifinals, and they were off the charts. I believe the Oklahoma-Georgia game, 27 million viewers, and I believe that Alabama-Clemson had 22 million with a very late start.
Now, will this be the highest-rated championship game? No, I don't believe it, but I don't believe it's going to be the lowest either. I do understand it's SEC-heavy without question, but I still think the ratings are going to be pretty good for this.
I feel like the ratings are just going to be bad in the state of Florida more than anything else.
Yeah, how about it?
That's
there may be a boycott in the central portion of that state.
Oh, you're talking about University of Central Florida? Okay. Well, look, they went 13-0. They went undefeated. Good for them. And Danny White appeared on their AD appeared on the Dan Lebatard show with Stu Gatz, and he's saying, hey man, we should be there. We're just as good as anybody.
I am trying to change the process for 2018 and beyond. The playoffs should expand. We need at least 8 teams. I think we need to go back to the rankings that we had in the BCS era. In years in the BCS era where schools like us had 0 or 1 losses, they were ranked like in the top 5. And all of a sudden the rankings have changed, and I think that there's a bias against schools outside of what we currently call the Power 5. But we feel strongly we're in a Power 6 conference. Our league is not respected enough. There's some really tough football in our league. We played teams as good or better than Auburn in our own conference.
Okay, that one hurt.
Are we buying that one?
He was going good for a while, and then he went down a bad road. To say we play teams, meaning UCF, as good as Auburn plays in their conference. UCF's strength of schedule is 86. Auburn was 12. It's just not true. And as far as my thought process, you want to get rid of 13 individuals who are giving their opinion on who the 4 best are? Go back to the BCS system. Go back to all computers, 1 human poll, and figure out the top 4 or top 8 that way. And you know what? We did that. And we had the top 8 after the conference championships. Hembo printed it up for us. What the simulated BCS says, if we had an 18 playoff, UCF, number 9.
Oy.
They would be just on the outside looking in. So you heard Danny White say, let's go back, with that system, there was no ambiguity.
And expand the playoffs.
They would be number 9. Now, I think because of what they did, if they went ahead this next season and did it again, they may be in because of where they would start.
But they'd have to run the table again.
They would.
And by the way, if you were looking for an 8-team playoff, it would have the exact same 8 teams that were in the top 8. Different order, but the exact same 8 teams that we had in the final 8 for the college football committee.
That's the fascinating part.
Yeah, it is.
It's really the same teams just put up in a different order. Now, look, all of this is taking nothing away from the remarkable turnaround. And we should be clear about that. A remarkable turnaround. They went 0-12 2 years ago, and then they go 13-0. It was over 50 players, I believe, that were on that 0-12 team that somehow got to 13-0. So you can't take anything away from it. And I'm with you. And Junior, you've been about this. Hey, claim that national championship. Put up the banner. I get it. But you lost me when you say you have the same strength of schedule as Auburn. It's not true.
Or that you play teams as good or better than Auburn in your conference every year, like what, Navy?
Yeah, he took
USF? Memphis?
South Florida did go 10-2.
South Florida had a good year. Memphis
went 10-3.
But it's not, as I said, the strength of schedule, there's a formula for that, 86-12. I mean, he just went too far there. They had a great year. I know the Lebatard show, Dan had a bunch of fun saying be the national champ and all that, and they had a great year, so you don't ever want to sound like you're taking away from that. But the
numbers are what the numbers are.
They weren't going to be in the top four, and they
look,
shouldn't have been in the top
four. We
get
it. We understand their frustration. We understand why they feel that way, but the numbers would still have them short even if they did expand to 8. By the way, that was Straight Talk Wireless nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Junior, thanks for being with us this morning. Appreciate you. I've given him some homework. We'll see if he comes back with it tomorrow. Coming up, Jon Gruden will join us. We'll talk about the wild card and maybe a team that may be leaving and heading to Vegas.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
Every day, millions of people go online to search for local businesses. Does your small business show up? When you create a website on WordPress.com, you make it easier for your customers to find you, to connect with you, to hear how you can help them. Your business needs an online home. It needs a WordPress.com website. You don't need experience setting up websites. WordPress guides you through the process from start to finish. They take care of the technical stuff, so it's easy to get your site up and running. Their customer support team is made up of WordPress experts eager to help you get the most from your site. They're available to help 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and weekends. Plans start at just $4 a month, and all WordPress plans include a custom domain name for the life of the plan. Come see why 28% of all websites run on WordPress. Get started today with 15% off any new plan purchase. Go to WordPress.com/Golic to create your website and find the plan that's right for you. That's WordPress.com/Golic for 15% off your brand new website. WordPress.com/Golic.
Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Rolling through a Wednesday morning. Glad you're with us. The first Wednesday of the new year, 2018. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. And Mike, you mentioned this yesterday, or maybe it was Monday, I'm not sure, when the new year changes and you got to write a check, and we gave you a bunch of grief. Who writes checks anymore? Yeah. I actually had to write a check.
See that? There you go.
I had to write a check this morning.
And did you think about it?
I did. I double clutch. I'm like, and then I went down this morning. Did I actually write the number? I wanted to make sure. I had to write off my fantasy football check for once again not winning.
There you go.
I'm like, wait, did I do it right? I want to make sure.
That?
We were giving you grief. I did actually write a check.
And I should have said more than just check, because you fill out all kind of forms,
paperwork,
doctor's office, whatever,
all that kind of stuff.
That you have to put the year. But as I said, 2017 is very easy to correct the 7 to an 8 though right
just
now.
Make
so
it
it's
look
not
like
bad.
an hourglass.
Exactly right. Yeah, so it can work out pretty well.
Instead of a curved 8, it's more like a triangle hourglass.
But you can pull it off, right?
You can. It's much easier to do than like a 7 to a 3. That would be bad. That would be impossible.
Yeah.
So we are glad you're with us. Again, we talked about the guests coming up. Jon Gruden will join us in just a few minutes.
Yes, wild card play. This is when we get to play off Saturday, Sunday too. Yes, I love that.
Absolutely.
You miss the college. Now we'll get that on Monday. But when the regular season ends for college, you have the championship weekend, and then you're void of that Saturday college football. But you got some Saturday pro football, and now you get those two games on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. I love this part, and it ends too soon, unfortunately.
It is. You get that for wild card weekend. You get it for divisional weekend, which a lot of people think is the best weekend in sports, because you have 2 games both Saturday and Sunday.
Awesome.
Then all leading up to championship Sunday, which I think is the greatest day of the entire NFL year. We can get into that a little bit later. Kyle Williams will join us as well, of the Buffalo Bills, Kirk Herbstreit and Brian Windhorst. But let's get into what's trending. That's the sounder that we chose. Isaiah Thomas, 17 points in his Cavs debut on Tuesday in Cleveland's win over Portland, but he's going to set out the game tonight when he faces his old team, Boston, on ESPN. It's the first time since the season opener these two will face, but they're trying to avoid back-to-back games for Isaiah at the moment.
Well, listen, I get it, and it looks weird, and we'll talk to Brian Windhorst later on in the show about that. It's actually against his former team now and all the build-up that's going to be, but I just think it happens to be that team, because I'm sure there were those that say, why didn't you hold off last night and make his debut tonight? Not because you're not sure what you're going to get, out of him, but what you got was 19 minutes and 17 points. You got some really good Isaiah Thomas play, and what you got is for Cleveland fans and the Cleveland, I think, team to say, okay, this could be good for us, because the point guard play had been basically last or next to last as far as production.
I think under 9 points, I think it was.
Had been bad from assists to points to minutes, so it had been bad. And he came in and did a nice job in game one. So the big thing, we always talk about this with any kind of injury, it's about long layoff, short layoff, whatever, is when you first come back, how are you the next day? This morning is the key. You play last night, how are you feeling this morning? How much treatment will you need to get back to where you were before the game? That's going to be the buildup for him, getting into playing shape, number one. Now, basketball is a game where in practice you can do a lot of running as well. Like in football, you can't get in football shape until you put pads on and start hitting.
Right.
Basketball shape, you can run and do some things, but there's still the game shape of getting, because you're not getting banged around in practice like you are in a game in basketball, to whatever extent that's going to happen for him. So he's got to go through that, but today is very important. So I get why they're sitting him today and not going back-to-back games right now. You know what? You don't need to. You don't need to make a big deal. They're going to play the Celtics again. You don't need to lose your mind here right now. The main thing is this guy needs to be right by playoffs.
We move on to college basketball. Number 10, Kansas lost its third home game of the season, 85-73 to 18th-ranked Texas Tech.
Amazing. 80-3 in the last 5 seasons at home, and all 3 of those losses coming this year. That is pretty crazy. Congrats to Texas Tech on getting that win. But, I mean, when you have dominance at home like that, and then you give up 3 already this year, that not only from a physical standpoint, but a mental standpoint of, man, this had always been our edge, and right now, we don't have that edge anymore.
Yeah, they're 80-3 over their last.
I'm sorry, did I say that wrong?
Yeah,
sorry.
It's okay. 80-3 in their home games. Although one of those games this year again was in Kansas City, not in Allen Fieldhouse. But
still
again,
considered a home game.
Absolutely,
but,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But Bill Self 220-10 in Allen Fieldhouse in his 14 seasons. He's now 226-12. Which just makes it, just shows you the stark contrast we've had this year and what's going on with Kansas. And then there's this. Mike Tyson breaking ground on his California marijuana ranch, according to theblast.com. The former heavyweight champ will try and get into the marijuana industry. He and his partner broke ground on December 20th for a cannabis resort 110 miles north of L.A.
Listen, I would like to know, I mean, this is what business people will do is you see something coming down the road and how early can you get in?
Right.
When they first legalize, when you're legalizing marijuana, who's the first to have the store up or to grow it or to get themselves in a position to take advantage? Because marijuana isn't legal everywhere, but I think it's going to be at some point. So who are the forward thinkers? Now, rarely do you say Mike Tyson and forward thinkers, I don't know, but part of his, business team or whatever you're looking for that says, okay, we know this is going to happen down the road in a lot of states, and I think the rest of the states are nationally become legal, or if it's up to the states, each state. And how can you get in on the ground floor? Where can you get in to take advantage of this situation? Because it's going to happen. This is a train that's going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
Rolling.
I see what you did there.
Rolling.
I got it. So I understand exactly.
Is that even done anymore, the rolling, or so much of the vaping? I don't know what goes on anymore.
We'll find out.
We'll have to break that down.
We'll break that down later. Different segment of the show.
Yeah.
All right. Lots
we
to
bring
get
on
to.
a stoner on? Is that they even call them that anymore?
I don't know.
As an analyst?
But let's keep going down that road.
Okay.
We'll continue now as we're delighted to be joined on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line by Jon Gruden. Of course, a former head coach for the Raiders and Bucks, won a Super Bowl with the Bucks, and he's calling the Titans-Chiefs playoff game for us Saturday at 4:20 Eastern on Wild Card Weekend. Jon, thanks for being with us. We'll get to all of that. But obviously, your name has been in the news quite a bit the last few days. Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen reporting that they believe you're going to be the next head coach of the Oakland Raiders. You've said, yes, you believe you are being considered. So what can you tell us now about that? Are you going to be the next head coach of the Raiders?
Well, that's up to Mark Davis. I have had conversations with Mark, and they're still, I believe, going through the interview process. And when he knows, I think we'll all know. But I appreciate Adam and Chris's confidence that I have a chance of getting that job. It's awful nice of them.
So I guess the question would be, if Mark Davis calls you and said, we've gone through all our candidates and, John, you're the one we choose, we'd like you to be the next coach of the Oakland Raiders, will you be the next coach of the Oakland Raiders?
I think there's a good chance. I'm excited about where I am in terms of studying the game and prepared to come back and coach. I just don't want to sit here and speculate, and it's almost like I don't know what's going to happen, Mike. I got to be honest with you. It's been a long couple of weeks. I know they've gone through their process of interviewing candidates, and until they're done, I won't know, but I did have a good meeting with Mark. I've known him a long time and got a lot of respect for the Raider football organization.
Then more on a general thing, because we just had Bruce Arians on yesterday who just called it quits and said, boy, at some point he turned around and his wife said it's his son's birthday, and he's like, his son Jacob turned 40. It was like, wow. I know you went through coaching. Your sons have grown up some, and now the possibility of going back. But we've seen like Bill Cowher go into the media and not come back, and I know understand some reasons there. Jimmy Johnson as well. And it's always been talked about with you whether it would happen or not. We've seen it in baseball with some managers leaving and then coming back. What's the draw with you coaches? What is it, even though you've been out for a while now? So this is more general question that says, you know what, I want to get back to doing this again.
Well, you miss the players. You know, you miss the grind. You miss the journey. Obviously, you miss winning, the opportunity to win. But I just miss being on a team. A lot of times I wake up, I miss being on a team. I do love my Monday night team. That's what's been outstanding. I've had a great opportunity to work with some exceptional people. But the peaks and valleys that go along with the football season are things I think all coaches always miss when they get away from it. But, you know, again, not to speculate very much. I'm being completely honest. I don't know what's going to happen. I've been through contract negotiations with the Raiders before. I can tell you I was traded in 2001. So I'm not going to do anything except go about my business as a Monday Night Football guy for ESPN. I'm excited for this game on Saturday.
And John, we understand that, and listen, that's one of the reasons Herm Edwards left us to go back to be the head coach of Arizona State, because he said he wanted to feel the grass under his feet one more time. And we'll get into that Titans game, I promise, but I have one last question about the Raiders situation. It's been reported that they offered you ownership in the team and some of the things that they've talked about. What can you tell us about that?
There's no truth to that at all. I heard Stephen Smith screaming at me on TV yesterday on one of his shows.
Well, he does that to everybody, just so you know.
That's one of the most there's no validity to that at all. None, zero. So that's a nice segment that I saw, but no ownership, that's for sure.
All right,
Trey.
All right, well, John, we appreciate you answering that.
Yeah, we do. So nothing there, and if Mark calls and offers you the job, then you go back to doing what you love to do in coaching. So that's fantastic. Until that time, you got a game to call on Saturday, Titans and the Chiefs. So as we look at that game, we saw the Chiefs start Pat Mahomes, but we know obviously they go back to the starters now, and the Titans coming into the end of the season the way they have as well to get into the playoffs. You talk a lot about how you're finishing a season and how you are by the end and playing. Where do you put these two teams as how they're going into the playoffs and what kind of shape?
I think Kansas City's playing good football down the stretch. Their win against the Chargers at home a couple weeks ago was very impressive. Offensively, they looked to have found their groove again. The big three is going to be hard to stop. The running back, Hunt, is spectacular, and he looks like he's revived. His legs are back. He's running hard. Tyreek Hill, good luck stopping him. He is everywhere, and he can change the scoreboard instantly, just like he did last year against the Titans in the regular season. And Kelsey is a terrible mismatch problem for everyone. So the big three are in high gear, I think, for the Chiefs. Andy Reid, trust Alex Smith, who's had a week off. His arm will be alive. It'll be interesting. I really think they're going to be a hard out at home. But their defense, the Chiefs' defense, has struggled. They have obviously been missing Dee Ford and Tom Bahali's presence all year as pass rushers. You know, losing the great safety man early in the season is a terrible loss for them. And I just am anxious to see if Marcus Mariota and this Tennessee Titan offense can live up to, I think, their potential. They've added some really good receivers. The rookie Davis, brought in Eric Decker. Rashard Matthews can play. Delaney Walker's a Pro Bowler. They got the smash mouth offense. It's time for them to fly. And I think noise and weather is going to be a big part of this game too, Mike.
Oh, no question. Best smelling stadium anywhere is
without
Arrowhead,
question.
That barbecue comes wafting in from the parking lot. But John, you mentioned it. It's time for this offense to fly, and you mentioned Mariota. It has been a real regression year for him. Obviously, he's coming back from the leg injury. He's had some hamstring issues this year. What do you think's been missing from his performance in 2017?
I think two things. Number one, they have a lot of new characters. We talked about Davis, who's a rookie who missed a lot of time. They missed a lot of practice time together. And Decker came over late in the process from the Jets. So there are some new pieces that have been moving. And the injury is huge for Marcus. I know he's played through it, but this man uses his legs to create so much offense. And watching him run around late in the fourth quarter against Jacksonville last week makes me feel like, you know what, he's back. And I think losing time on the practice field with his injury, with Davis's injury, I think it hurt him. I think obviously the leg injury is a little bit more serious and perhaps lingered longer than people think. But I got a lot of confidence in Mariota in big games. Can he handle the ball in the cold weather? Some of these people from Hawaii don't like going to Arrowhead in January.
You know, as far as Kansas City, we've heard all the talk, and we saw that Andy Reid, who is so respected as a coach, moving up big time to get a Pat Mahomes, who started the last game, and the thoughts of him going forward. Do you see this as, or what discussions I would imagine do you have to have as Andy Reid and with Alex Smith that maybe whenever a lot of people are speculating whenever the season ends, whether it's this weekend, next weekend, or whatever, that it's going to be the end of Alex Smith and the beginning of Pat Mahomes. If that's been decided by Andy Reid already, do you think Alex Smith knows that as well?
I think Alex Smith, after meeting with him and getting to know him over the years, Mike, I think he has a real good idea of the reality of his long-term future in Kansas City. It might last another year. He's had a spectacular year, and they might keep him another year to help bring this young quarterback along. But Alex Smith has been through this before. This isn't his first rodeo. He's been through multiple changes in San Francisco, and I think he realizes that Mahomes is the future of the Chiefs, but the future doesn't start today. It's all about the single elimination tournament, and this guy is such a professional. He is such a team guy. I don't think Alex Smith is giving it one grain of thought.
Jon Gruden with us on Golic and Wingo. Of course, he'll be calling the wild card game between the Chiefs and the Titans. And again, as we talked earlier on the show, if the Raiders do indeed come calling with an offer, it looks like he will be taking that job and heading to Oakland and then eventually on to Las Vegas. John, let's talk a little bit about the Philadelphia Eagles because they are the number one seed in the NFC. But it sure doesn't feel like they're a number one seed because of the injury to Carson Wentz. The offense has really struggled over the last 2 weeks. Nick Foles came in against the Giants and actually looked great. 4 touchdown passes, completed or converted 46%. The offense did of their third down conversions. But in the last 2 weeks, whether it was him or Nate Sudfeld, that offense has just been non-existent. How concerned are you about what has been a great season for Philadelphia may come up flat because of what obviously happened at the most important position in team sports in this country?
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of concern. The weather, too, the last 2 weeks has been very, very difficult to throw the ball in Philadelphia against the Raiders and the Cowboys, and it may be that way in the playoffs. But remember when Foles took over, Trey, he took over late in the season when Wentz got hurt against the Rams. And if you go watch a professional football team practice these days, the backup quarterbacks, they get no reps. So I think a lot of this is going to be how much reps, how many things can they do to enhance Nick Foles on game day. They're getting to know each other now, his strengths, his weaknesses, things perhaps they got to avoid with him. But the bottom line is Wentz was spectacular. He still should be considered the MVP of the entire league. He made so many plays with his legs, and that's not Nick Foles' game. Things have to be a little bit cleaner in the pocket. Receivers have to be open. The protection has to be there, and he's just not a guy that goes out and makes a lot of creative plays scrambling around, and that's what Wentz did a lot. You don't know how many times he bailed Philadelphia out of dire situations.
As far as the AFC, obviously New England, the number one seed, and most people pointing to Pittsburgh as being their biggest threat. But there are some that say, not Pittsburgh the biggest threat, that it's Jacksonville that could be the biggest threat to New England. Are you buying into that, or is it still Pittsburgh to you?
I'm still staying with the Steelers. I think Roethlisberger, big games. If they get Antonio Brown back, I think they're a problem. They can deal with the cold weather. I like Jacksonville. I'm just concerned a little bit with their offense. If they need to score at the end of a football game in a 2-minute drill, if they're behind, I don't know that they can do that. But the one thing that Jacksonville is going to do is they're going to play outstanding defense. Man, are they impressive. They can shut you down on the corner with Boye and Ramsey, and they do a great job with their scheme, getting some one-on-one rushes up front. They got guys that can get the passer. But when you look at this tournament, Mike, you must agree there's 6 or 7 dark horse teams that we really don't know much about in the playoff format. Remember, Buffalo's in the tournament. The Saints, no one thought they'd be in the tournament. The Rams have turned things around. This entire field has a lot of unknowns. That's what makes it very exciting for me.
Well, certainly, and you mentioned Buffalo. Kyle Williams will be joining us in a little bit to talk about the Bills finally ending that 17 season playoff drought, and that's the Doug Marrone Bowl as they go up against his old team, their old coach in Jacksonville. I want to ask you about one of your old players, though, John. John Lynch, safety for you with the Bucs, obviously up for the Pro Football Hall of Fame now. What are your memories of him as a player and the things he was able to do for you?
You know, the thing I remember most about John Lynch is just looking in front of the team in the meeting room at how wired he was. He didn't like football. He loved football. He had to bring every single day. I don't know how he woke up in the morning. He must have got very little sleep. He looked like he loved football more than any guy I've ever coached. He had a presence about him on the field as a leader. He was an incredible communicator. And he was one of the biggest hitters in pro football for almost a decade. But he had great ball skills. If we played him deep, if we put him up near the line of scrimmage, he was a force. He played like a linebacker. Just a great professional football player. What he did in the community here in Tampa, I can't imagine him not being in the Hall of Fame. And I wish him the best. I'm so proud for his success in San Francisco. He's one of the really, really good guys.
And we certainly looks like they found their quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo with the way he's played down the stretch.
Absolutely.
John Lynch doing a good job there. John, we appreciate you being with us. Good luck on the game this weekend with you and Sean calling the Titans and Chiefs. And if it does indeed turn out that you are headed on to Oakland, I will miss you on the draft this year, my friend.
Yeah, thanks. I'll miss you guys too. We'll see what happens. And no matter what, I consider you guys my very good friend. And look forward to catching up again.
Thanks, John. Thanks so much. Appreciate that.
All right, guys. See you later.
He combined us as one person, by the way.
Yes, he did.
His very good friend.
But him on the draft, watching it, boy, oh boy, yeah.
I mean, one of the real pleasures of doing the draft is the last few years. You go down and you sit with John. He has that whole complex where he has the Gruden quarterback camp and all that stuff. He has a whole office down there where we just set up, and he's got tape on every single player that you want to talk about in the draft. And we go in there. It's me and Mel and a bunch of other people, and Lewis and Susie Colbert, and we're all sitting there and we're just watching all the tape going back. If you are a football guy, a football junkie, being in that room and listening to John break down the tape.
Lots of tape. Listen, I lived on that. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And listen, I don't think there's any doubt, and now they have a contractor, they would have to work out that John is going to be the next coach of the Raiders. Right?
Well, the relationship, if they offer him the job,
and I get him saying that, but I don't have any doubt that they're going to offer him the job, obviously working out the details of what they want to spend.
Which will not include ownership,
according to John, it will not. Because that listen, as I even said, I love any coach or anybody in any job to get the most money they possibly can. But from a business side of it, I just couldn't see other owners, because they would have to have agreed to that. That would have had to have been approved, that they would do that without making it a very slippery slope. So you heard Jon Gruden say no ownership involved in the negotiations. And if he's offered the job, that he'll be the next coach of the Oakland Raiders. So I have a pretty good feeling he'll be the next coach of the Oakland Raiders and then the Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah. So good for him. Yeah. You know what? If you have that want to, like Herm did, to get back into the coaching after being out for a year, good for them, and it'll be a benefit to the players.
And by the way, who's very happy to hear that more than anybody else, Bob Kraft. So he's not getting Bill Belichick on line one. Let's talk ownership.
Yeah.
50-50, you and me. What do you say, big guy? So that is not going to happen. But again, we'll see what happens with John, but he will be calling the game for us. Titans-Chiefs playoff game Saturday at 4:20.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
That, of course, was the voice of Kyle Williams, Buffalo Bills tackle, who, of course, has been in the league for 12 seasons, former All-American at LSU, 5-time Pro Bowler, scored his first touchdown on Sunday.
And you know what? I'm so happy, A, he scored the touchdown, and B, they made the playoffs, because it'll take the sting out of the fact that my alma mater beat his alma mater in the bowl game.
You went there right away.
Oh, I did.
You
Come on, I had some fun with Booger, so I had to have some fun here before he comes on and yells at me.
Well, see, Golic's mean. I'm happy. I'm a nice guy. So we're welcoming in
Yes, as a D-lineman, he has scored a touchdown, and I never did. So.
There you go. Joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Kyle, first and foremost, congratulations on the Bills ending that drought. What was the scene like? We saw the video of all you guys watching the end of the Bengals-Ravens game in the locker room. When you finally sunk in and you saw the Boyd touchdown and you guys were going to the playoffs, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
You know, you're just so grateful, for, been here 12 years and so many things have happened, ups and downs, and, you have surgeries and you're coming back from things, and, just grateful for, the opportunity to be there in that moment. You kind of envisioned it and you wanted it to happen, and, not having it happen so many times for it to finally happen, to be here when it happened I was just grateful. I was in there with my sons, and it was just a fun time for everybody there.
Does it now? It can't erase obviously everything of not making the playoffs, but does it mute some of the pain that you went through the last however many years, well, your entire career there, obviously, before making the playoffs? Does it mute that some?
Well, I just think it makes it worth it, right? You're going through everything because you want an opportunity to be a world champion. You want a chance to win a Super Bowl. And, for the first time in my career, this is really the first chance I've gotten. So, it makes it worth it. And, like I said, there's so many ups and downs, but to be able to celebrate there with my teammates and, a couple of my sons, it was a really special moment and something I won't forget.
Well, we saw the video of you running around on the field with your sons afterwards, but obviously the playoffs is the Sunday for you guys. The cherry had to be the touchdown. And the thing that we loved about that, they had clearly worked on that. That wasn't a last-second decision to put you in, right, because you guys had a coordinated celebration. So take us through the idea when you knew that play was going to be called, and if it was successful, you knew what you were going to do.
Well, we had worked on it a little bit during the week, and it was mostly about transition and handoff and make sure I was comfortable with that. And I knew when we got the pass interference in the end zone, we were going to be 1st and 1 from the 1. So I said, if they're ever going to run it, now's the time. I don't want to imagine us hanging our hat on that play on a 3rd down, and we ran it and we got in. And as far as the celebration goes, it was totally spur of the moment, spontaneous. We're all jumping up and down like, what are we going to do? I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was somebody else. Was like, oh, let's do a bomb, throw it up in there, we'll all fall. And we're like, great, do it. We threw it and just fell down. It was just a lot of fun celebrating those guys and, trying to celebrate to the max because I don't know if that'll ever happen again.
Talking to Kyle Williams, defensive tackle for Buffalo, as they get ready to play in their first playoff game in a long, long time. 1999. So I know you had one other carry in a game in 2000. Not carry, but you were on the field and you blocked in that play when Chan Gailey was a coach. But I know you practiced it a couple of times during the week. But when you know it's coming to you, so the play is called, it's coming to you, you're a D lineman, you're not used to handling the ball. What was your as you were getting down in your stance, going through the play, what was your biggest worry?
Well, I couldn't hear Tyrod's cadence, so I had to watch the ball. So that was number one. And then once I didn't false start, it was ball security. I say, okay, I can't fumble this because if I find a way to screw this up, they're never going to let you do it again. They call your number, they put something in specifically for you, and if you screw it up, you're out. So I'm like, okay, those were the two things. I said, if I get stopped or something like that, nobody really expected you to score a rushing touchdown anyway. But if you get a pre-snap penalty or you fumble the ball and you get a turnover, you're on the blacklist. So I had to. Those are the two things going through my mind. And luckily, I got the ball, and basically all I did was fall for about 1.5 yards into the end zone. Just about anybody could do that.
I don't, but you did it, Kyle. That's the thing. You did it. Now, I don't want you to give away, any game plan or anything, but if we see 1st and 1, on the 1 yard line against Jacksonville, could we see a reappearance of you on the field?
Well, all I'm saying is I've had one opportunity to score a touchdown, and I've got one touchdown. So, it might be the making of a monster here. I might be calling for the ball. I might be yelling at the offensive coordinator on the sideline. I never know how far I might go with this thing.
Hey, man, you're going to be a wide receiver before we know it. Just calling for the ball. You're always open. But, Kyle, here's the one thing I have a concern about. Can we get you on the hands team on onside kicks? Because you guys have had some issues with the Buffalo Bills with the Miami Dolphins in that one department in the 2 games you guys have played this year against them.
Yeah, I don't know if those guys know how to put a little extra wiggle on the onside or what, but I think our guys will figure it out. At least hopefully. We don't need to do that too many more times.
Well, thankfully you won't have to do that this year. And as Mike said, you're now going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is the Baloney Bowl or the Doug Marrone Bowl, as your former head coach who left you guys after a winning season. Thought he was going to get a job in the NFL, had to sit out for a while. Now he's the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Is there extra motivation for you because of the way it ended with Doug Marrone in Buffalo?
Not for me. I'm one of the few that was here when he was here. And, as far as I'm concerned, the past is the past. And the thing about being around the NFL for a long time is you're always going to play old teammates. You're always going to play friends. You're always going to play old coaches on different staffs. And you're always going to kind of continue to run across one another, whether they left on good terms, they left on bad terms, So there's really nothing extra there for me. It's just opportunity for me and my teammates to, go out and play in a playoff game, which they worked so hard for and they deserve to be in. So
let's look at this game up against Jacksonville. We know they love to run the ball. Certainly they'll throw it when they need to, but with the backs they have, the line and their offensive scheme they have running the ball. So give us a breakdown of them. We know how great their defense is, but the side of the ball you'll be going against, give us a little bit on that Jacksonville offense.
Well, I think, it starts with the running backs with Fournette and Ivory and Yeldon. I don't know if anybody's got a stable of running backs like that in the league, at least 3. That jumps off the page when you watch those guys. Offensive line, big physical guys, and they're committed to the run game. So it's something that defensively we're going to have to be prepared for. We're going to have to, be really focused on our details of our run fits and different things like that, because they're going to challenge you that way. They can shrink the game and take it over. So it's a great challenge for us. We're excited about it. We'll be up for it. We're going to have a great week of preparation with a lot of energy, and we're going to be excited to go.
Kyle, take people inside a little bit. For a guy like you that's been around for a long time, you've seen about every formation you can see, and I talk at times about when players get game plans on Wednesday and, you have this amount of percentages in this formation, they do this or that. You've been around a while. You've seen it all. What is your film study about now? When you're going into the film room, is it the schemes? Is it the guy you're playing against? Let people know how you prepare individually to battle against an offense.
Well, a lot of times early in the week, before we start getting into game plan specific things, I'll watch individual linemen. I'll watch all of their offensive linemen. I'll watch run pass keys. I'll watch stances. I'll watch formations. What do they do in the backfield? And then I'll start getting a feel for what they like to do. What does this guy do well? So maybe I can go to Jerry Hughes and be like, hey, I've been watching this, and this guy does this well, and run and pass. And then I can kind of work my way down the line where it's not just about me. It's helping all the guys on the line, kind of helping them with their preparation. But, I'm like, okay, well, what are they doing out of this? What does this guy do well? What does he not do well? What has he struggled with? And then it'll kind of evolve for a couple of days, and then we'll get in today when we start getting into game planning and their run game. I'll have a pretty good handle on, what they like to do, and then I just kind of expand it from there. So, we'll start putting in our game plan, our defenses, the things that we're going to do. We'll figure out what we want to do on third down against them and just kind of marry all of those in and kind of bring the D linemen along with me and make sure that we're all seeing things the same way so we can communicate fast and we can play fast.
Bills defensive tackle Kyle Williams with us on Golic and Wingo. And you mentioned about the running game of the Jags. We got to ask you about Shady McCoy. He went out of that win over the Dolphins with that ankle injury, had to be carted off. It looked really bad. What can you tell us about his availability for this game Saturday?
I don't know. I know that he's been in the training room, and obviously we're hopeful he can play. He's a big part of who we are. a great player for us and a great teammate. So, we're all pulling for him, and hopefully his ankle will be something that can hold up and let us have our running back that we desperately need.
Yeah, I'm sure like most players, if he can get out on the field, he's going to try and get out on the field. Kyle, how about this? How about if you had a microphone and you were in front of the tens of thousands of Buffalo Bill fans that, like you, have been waiting and waiting and waiting, and this moment is finally here? What would you say to those fans?
Well, I'm so happy and thankful for those guys. In my career, I've tried to be very vocal about our fans and how great they are and who they are and what they mean to us. I think more than anything, as I kind of thought about it over the last day or so, is let next year when the football season rolls around and they're getting into the playoff hunt or it's preseason, they're talking about playoffs. They don't have to stomach the thing, oh, well, the Buffalo Bills are in 17-year playoff drought, or, oh, hey, they're coming a 18-year playoff drought. They don't have to take that anymore. They don't have to listen to that anymore. And I know that's a tremendous weight lifted off of them, and I'm so happy for them. And like I said earlier, I'm so grateful that I could be here for so long. But, more than anything, I was standing in that locker room when I saw that whole thing was over.
Yeah, and to see how the fans have reacted, donating all that money to Andy Dalton's foundation. Over 150,000 now Buffalo Bills fans have donated to Andy Dalton's foundation because obviously the touchdown pass put you guys in the playoffs. That was a great thing to see as well. Hey, Kyle, congratulations, man. A long time coming. Enjoy the heck out of this, man, because it's been 12 years in the making. We appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, Kyle.
I will, guys. Thanks a lot. Hey, not a very, very nice comment about Notre Dame. That was not nice at all. I heard that before I came on. That was painful to listen to the first thing in the morning.
I told them to not have you be able to listen to that. I apologize. Actually, I don't.
Look, it's painful for me every morning listening to it, all right?
Oh, I can imagine.
Kyle,
right,
we
guys,
appreciate
have a great day.
You too,
Kyle.
man. Thanks so much.
Right.
Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2 as we're rolling through a Wednesday morning. And we just had Kyle Williams on as the Bills are back in the playoffs. For the first time since 1999. But today is a very special, and I guess it makes sense that it would happen, that the Bills would break that drought this year, right? Because today, January 3rd, 2018, is the God, I feel old.
Yeah, we are old.
Thank you. I should just accept it. The 25th anniversary of what I thought was the single greatest game in the history of the NFL.
The great comeback, huh?
The great comeback game between the Houston Oilers and the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills were down 38 at one point, and it came back to win that 38-3, I believe it was, and came back to win 41-38 in overtime. One of the craziest games I've ever seen in all time, and it was just nuts. I mean, all the Houston Oilers. Were you on that team? No, you had already moved to Philadelphia. You already moved to Philadelphia.
Oh, it was gone. Yeah,
yeah. But all the Oilers needed to do in the second half of that game was literally get a first down in the second half, and it would have been over. I mean, it was 28-3 at the half, and then they had a pick six that made it 35-3, and then the Bills stormed back with 28 points in the third quarter.
It's unbelievable. Frank Reich,
yeah, and with their backup quarterback, that's right, because Jim Kelly was out. He was hurt in the season finale, which was against the Houston Oilers in the House of Pain, the old Astrodome. And at that point, Frank Reich had the biggest comeback in college football as a Maryland quarterback against Miami, and then did it against the Houston Oilers as a member of the Buffalo Bills. And what made that game great for me was not only the comeback, but the Bills took the lead 38-35, only to have Houston come back and tie it to send it into overtime, and then in overtime they get the field goal to go on and win it. It was craziest thing.
Really was incredible. So let's add to some of the other things on this day in sports. Again, January 3rd. Let's go back to 1920, shall we?
Let's do it.
The New York Yankees purchased Babe Ruth from the Red Sox for $125,000.
Now, at that time, that money seems like an astronomical
unbelievable amount. And now with most of the athletes, they could find it in their couch.
Hembo, do some calculating. What would $120,000 in 1920 be equal to today? Because that was a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
However, Yankees got the better of that deal. No matter how much that money calculates out to be, Yankees got the better of that deal.
How about on this date, January 3rd, 1973? I love how they write this out. The Columbia Broadcasting System,
why wouldn't it be?
CBS, sells the New York Yankees to a 17-person syndicate headed by George Steinbrenner for $10 million.
Hembo, calculate those numbers as
Keep
well.
Keep calculating, Hembo. Keep calculating.
As we're presented by Progressive Insurance, we're going to make sure that Hembo progresses us with these numbers. We need 1920 money, $125,000. What would that be today? And 1973, $10 million. What would that be today?
And I have one more for you. In 1983, on January 3rd, Tony Dorsett sets an NFL record with a 99-yard rush, the Cowboys against the Vikings. Hembo, find out what in 2018 a 99-yard rush would be.
It would be a 99-yard rush.
Oh, it would?
Yeah, just so we're clear.
Oh, okay.
That was in the old Metrodome. And you remember at the old Metrodome, the sidelines and the yard markers were not painted. It was like a chalky substance.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There was always chalk all over the field.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And that was, by the way, that was in the strike-shortened season of 1982. That wasn't a playoff game.
No, it was not.
That was a regular season game that helped the Cowboys get into the playoffs that year. But, yeah, that was a regular season game.
And then January 3rd, 2003, Ohio State beat Miami double overtime in the Fiesta Bowl, 31-24 for the national championship. That was the BCS title. But, boy, I remember that game.
That was the late flag game.
Yes,
the late flag
it was.
on the pass interference when Miami thought they had won it. So that was an epic college football game. Coming up, when we come back on Golic and Wingo, we'll talk to Kirk Herbstreit about another epic college football game, the amazing Rose Bowl he helped call on Monday night, and who has the edge in the all-SEC showdown for it all. Again, we will be on the road with you in Atlanta for Alabama and Georgia, but Kirk Herbstreit among the guests joining us when we come back on Golic and Wingo, rolling through this Wednesday morning.
Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15%.